Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joshablon, and welcome back to another Speedpaint. So, last week we kind of moved on from our Greek god phase briefly. We're not back in it quite yet. Maybe give it a couple of weeks. I have a few more suggestions that I need to plow through before I get back to that. But this week, what we're going to be drawing is from an anime that I just barely picked up last week, and that would be the character Miku from the anime Quintessential Quintuplets. Uh, I am very glad that I got that right on the first try. I mean, it's a little bit of a tongue twister. Quintessential Quintuplets. I mean, try saying that 10 times fast. But anyways, regardless. So, I got this request last week, and it kind of came out of the blue. I've never heard of Quintessential Quintuplets before, but it's an anime that came out, I think, in 2019. I'm not sure how popular it was. I haven't seen or heard anything about it, but then again, I wasn't quite following the scene back then. But regardless, I went to do a little bit of research, and now I am hooked on this series, and it is absolutely fantastic, and I love it. So, pretty well, just the basic premise of the show, you get your typical kind of stereotypical smart guy who's kind of above everyone else and whatnot, and pretty well, he is hired to teach this group of very, very wealthy girls. Now, they all have their own distinct personalities and everything, but they're all quintuplets, and so it has some interesting implications behind it. So they're each sweet and wonderful in their own way, and I love them all to bits. But regardless, the request today was on Miku, so that is who I'm going to be doing. So Miku, in the quintuplets, she's kind of the... I don't really want to say emo, because I don't think she's quite that far. I mean, she's probably the most moody of them in the kind of stereotypical teenage sense. So I would say that she's kind of that. A little bit of a romantic, a little bit of a geek. So yeah, I think that she's just absolutely adorable, and I love her. So yeah, I had a very, very fun time with this one. There were a couple of things that I wasn't quite the happiest with when it came to her coloring, but I think that overall the design, just the overall outline of everything, I think it went pretty okay. So with Miku, she always has kind of the hair coming over kind of sometimes around one eye, or always kind of parted just a little bit over to one side of her head, and then coming up either in front of one of her eyes or kind of looping around one of her eyes going by her nose. And I just decided to kind of swoop it so that it was covering most of one of her eyes. So that's kind of where I decided to do with that. I think the hair turned out okay, but yeah. Do leave it down in the comment section below if you guys would like me to do any of the other quintuplets. So I have another request for next week, so it wouldn't be next week, but the week after that, I would almost definitely be getting to another one of the quintuplets. So yeah, we might make this a little series, have another 4 weeks of lovely quintuplet action. So yeah, do let me know down in the comment section below if you'd like me to move on to do any of the other girls. So yeah. Now, there are a lot of different faces that I could have gone with when it came to Miku. I mean, for the reference image that I'm using over on the left, it's an actual shot from the show. It's a very pretty show, to be quite honest. Sometimes. The animation's a little sketchy every now and then, but most of the time it's very, very good. But regardless, sometimes she has this cute little smile on, sometimes her expression is rather blank, but because she tries to act like nothing phases her that much. She's just kind of the calm-headed one. And so I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that, but when I was going through images of her and when I was going and starting to watch the show, one of the things that I absolutely loved was her little pouty face, and this is something that all the quintuplets seem to do, is they all get this cute, adorable little pouty face on. And it's just absolutely fantastic, so I decided to go with that. And also, if you do want me to draw more quintuplets, leave it down in the comment section below if you would like me to do them all with their signature pouty faces, because I think that would be absolutely hilarious to do at some point in time. I might just do that by myself if no one's recommending it, but yeah, I think it might be interesting to do. So I decided to have her do that. Maybe she got her hand held by the main character, I don't know. But yeah, she's fantastic. So maybe she's telling him to commit seppuku or something like that. Don't look into it too much. But yeah. So I was quite happy with the expression. With overall face shape, I wasn't exactly sure if it was the best. I think that maybe it needed to be a little bit wider, kind of down near the bottom. But yeah, I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. I was very happy with how the hoodie kind of jumper turned out. I thought that it was very, very nice. As for the hair, it was a little bit difficult. With each of the quintuplets, they each have similar-ish hair. I mean, they typically have on the range of red to pink, or kind of orange to pink, I would say. There's orange, red, kind of purple-ish, and, well, like really light purple, and it keeps going all the way until you get to pink, and so each of them has different shades of it, and you need to put the gradient in there, and so it's really difficult to kind of pinpoint exactly what color it is. One thing that makes it even harder is that it's not always consistent. In the reference image I was using, Miku's hair, for example, it looked very, very light pink, and when I tried to color match and everything, then sometimes it'd come out as purple, and so it was really, really difficult to figure out what color her hair actually was. For most of the show, it's more of a brown. However, I was going to just take my take on this, and so I decided to go with more of what my reference image was giving with the dramatic lighting, and so it turned out to be kind of more of this pinkish color, but especially when I add the shading in, you're able to tell it very much is kind of a brownish pink of sorts. So I think that it turned out okay. And I think that the blush and everything, I think that it was interesting to add. I thought it was really harsh when I first added it on, but by the time it was finished, I think it worked really, really well, which definitely shows when it comes to drawing, don't get rid of details because they look bad. Not every time, at least. Sometimes just draw for a little bit longer, and maybe it'll look good in the end. I thought it looked really bad at the beginning. I thought it looked pretty good at the end. So that is my little bit of drawing advice for the day. Now, I mentioned this in my last video, which was drawing Luqua from Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. The thing that I mentioned was that I really wanted to be using more than two kind of layers of color. So generally I just did the main color of the hair and of the skin and everything, and then I would go on and I would do just the general shadow tone. But I mentioned in my last video that I wanted to move past that, and I wanted to add perhaps just a third layer or a fourth layer, and to just get a lot more kind of contrast between everything. So I think that I managed to do that a little bit more. What I decided to do with this one, especially with the hair, of course I do the gradient as always, because that's always a nice little feature, adds some really nice coloring to it, and you see it in a lot of anime anyways, so made it look quite nice. But one thing that I decided to do with this piece is I decided to go through and put my normal shadow in just as always, but of course make it a little bit darker than usual, and have that be really, really strictly contrasted with the rest of the piece. However, I went through with a watercolor brush afterwards with a slightly darker tone, and I just ran through all the places that should be darker, and it turned out quite nicely, I have to say. A little bit messy, but I think that it turned out quite nicely, so that it didn't quite look like a panel from an anime, but that it looked a little bit more... I don't want to say finished, because the stuff I produce definitely isn't professional quality, sorry to let you guys know, but it's true, it's true. But, yeah, not quite sure what the word would be to describe it, but yeah, I think it turned out pretty well. Now, in terms of what I wanted for the lighting, I had to really think about it. I was inspired by the lighting in the reference image that I used, and it's in a brightly lit classroom, and the sun is shining through the windows and everything, so I wasn't exactly sure what to do with the lighting. That's what I was inspired by, that's what I kind of started going towards, but then when it came to it, and I got to the finished piece, I really started thinking about where she would be, because I didn't really want to spend all the, like, an extra hour or two working on a classroom. I know it's me being a little bit lazy, I do apologize, but I really thought about it, and the one place that I remember in the show, where I know Miku from the best, is by the vending machine. she gets a special drink there. I forget what it's called, like mochi tea or something like that. But regardless, that's not too important. But I remember that in her main episode, which comes early in the series, she spends a lot of time there with the main character, and that's kind of a big turning point with them and their relationship towards each other. So I decided to go kind of with that. For some reason, I decided to do it at night, which doesn't make too much sense with the lighting, but I came up with a little explanation for it. So, of course, there's a vending machine in the background. I added a little bench. Of course, just doing it all really roughly, because that's not what you're supposed to be focusing on. You focus on the beautiful anime girl. But I was thinking, since it's night, you have like the LED signs and everything out and about. And so I thought that it would be nice just you have the dark on one end, light on the other. It explains why it's so contrasting between the dark and the light. And so I think the explanation works pretty well. So yeah, just imagine there may be a couple more vending machines, a couple LED lights out and about, some signs. And yeah, I think this piece turned out pretty well. So yeah. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. And in the next speed paint, we are going to be moving on to whatever you guys would like me to draw next. So, see you then.